welcome to the show. This is the Shadow of the Script podcast. I'm your host, Jared May, and yes, the audio quality is sounding much better. Believe me, I've paid the price to get good quality audio. But man, what an episode with Turner and Chad AUNE this past week. I was so happy to be able to do it with them. Great 90-minute episode. We covered basically all the topics that we wanted to cover. I thought it was a very good quality conversation, and I've been calling up some of my other friends and just kind of can't wait to keep doing things like that. I know there's not many platforms out there that just do friends and things like that, but man, it was a fun time, and it just feels like it just feels like you're just kind of hanging out with the boys. So much appreciated to Turner and Chad AUNE. You guys were outstanding guests. I apologize on my behalf that I didn't get the audio quite right, because that's something that I should have been checking prior. So that's on the host, and maybe I need to hire a producer. Who knows? But God bless everybody. A new pope has been elected, and he is an American pope from Chicago, Illinois. Came straight from the streets. And all I got to say to that is, what the hell is a kilometer? We're back, America. Rah! Yeah. Anyway, I've never really too much cared for the Pope. I've always just kind of been, it's like, oh shit, like this Pope just fell to the second round. I mean, I don't know. There's about like thousands of people just glazing over one guy that's supposed to be like closest to God, and aren't we all supposed to be equally close to God if we try our butts off? Yeah. Look, well, here's the episode for today. I actually really wanted to cover. I mean, heck. The Dallas Cowboys made a humongous splash in the trade market after the draft with George Pickens. So I thought, of course, being a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that's kind of my niche and what I'm known for covering well, is I'm going to go in here and kind of cover what my article says and give some takes about the George Pickens trade to Dallas, expressing concerns, some highlights, and maybe the angle of which the Cowboys are going for here. So that's going to be the basis of the episode. And then if I find anything else along the way or afterwards, I might touch a little bit on that just off the whim. But yeah, man, I mean, look, my unscripted take, I had a little Twitter thread about this, but my unscripted take was pretty much, you needed a wide receiver too, and you got one. So you traded for, arguably a wide receiver one in the current market of wide receiver talent. So, obviously he's not everyone's a top 10 these days. It's like, oh, George Pickens, you get a good quarterback. He's a top 10 receiver. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But when you're looking for someone alongside CeeDee Lamb, they can actually stretch the field, could actually be a threat outside the numbers. We were counting on Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Tolbert, and Ryan Flournoy. And that was a direct quote from Steven and Jerry Jones, basically saying, well, they all have the potential to be number two. It's like, you're not patting your pitcher on the back. Well, I believe he can throw strikes. That's not football. So when I saw that statement, I thought, well, here we are again. We're cooked. But per usual, we're getting rage baited. We're getting gaslit, and there's always something going on behind the scenes that keeps you guessing. You got to hand it to Jerry. One, for the offseason that they've had, or at least this move in specific. You can go into detail about the offseason in general, but you got to hand it to Jerry in that category. But you also got to hand it to him because that dude keeps you guessing. At every switch, at every turn, you don't know what Jerry Jones is going to pull out of his bag. And I just think it was completely unexpected. I thought there might be a deal on the table for some 30-year-old vet, but instead you get a 24-year-old George Pickens still on his rookie contract. So we'll get into how that's all going to fit in with the Cowboys' future, what's coming up around the corner, what's to be expected for this year, all kind of throughout my article. And I figured I'll just kind of baseline everything from what I wrote, because it kind of covers almost everything. So let's kind of break it down though. So if you're unaware, the Dallas Cowboys traded for George Pickens, a 24-year-old from the Pittsburgh Steelers. DK Metcalf had just joined up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it was going to be DK Metcalf and George Pickens with whoever they got at quarterback. So, and from what it's telling me, I think George Pickens leaving Pittsburgh might be an indicator that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be playing football this year and that he might go into retirement. But the Dallas Cowboys traded for George Pickens, like I said, for a third round 2026 draft pick. So a third round NFL draft pick for the 2026 year, and then some like late round pick swaps in the 2027 year. And then the Dallas gets, I think, a sixth rounder for next year's draft. So all in all, it costs you a third round pick next year to get a elite talent at a wide receiver to position that has potential to be a wide receiver one if CeeDee Lamb happens to get hurt, which he has shown that he is probably the most durable wide receiver on the market. So this is excellent news, obviously, for Dak Prescott, because now you're going into the season with not just CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, and Jonathan Mingo, and Ryan Flournoy, and Kevontae Turpin. You're like, here we go again. It's the same thing as last year. I mean, we're going to shade safeties over to the side that CeeDee Lamb is on. We're going to have to try and find ways. His yards per catch is going to be like 5 yards because, well, we need him to get open and open quick because everyone else is taken and they're not gaining the separation necessary. Well, now you got kind of an elevated Michael Gallup, which we've seen Dak Prescott perform with Michael Gallup and kind of elevate him into the contract that got him, I think, close to $18 million a year on a 5-year deal for, I think it was a 5-year deal for $60 million, but I could be wrong. When Michael Gallup got paid before he was, before he got injured and went into retirement and then came back. So this is going to be good. I mean, now you're going in with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Dak Prescott, a kind of a revamped offensive line with Tyler Booker being drafted in the first round, 12th overall. Another Oregon tackle, I think, in the latter half of the NFL draft. Maybe spice some things up. And Connor Beebe was a pretty damn good center. Brock Hoffman showed a lot of bright spots. Obviously, Zach Martin is not going to be returning. He went into retirement. Rest in peace to a phenomenal, perhaps the best career that a guard has ever had. I mean, he's got less penalties than I do speeding tickets. I mean, it's pretty wild. He's got, I mean, dude, the accolades, the all-pros that Zach Martin contributed to, and then all that not to win anything. It breaks my heart in that category. But yeah, you had to replace that, whether it be at 12th overall, or maybe trade it back and maybe get a better value pick. Overall, what I've seen from Tyler Booker is he's going to be a interior defensive lineman's worst freaking nightmare. And I'm all for that. I mean, do I like the pick? I've already kind of explained, if I like the pick or not. I think we could have gone. I think we could have addressed the receiver, but kind of like how I said with Joe Milton, I think that George Pickens is kind of the same in a sense where rather than taking a chance on somebody that may or may not pan out the way you want them to, and you need kind of an immediate now production. What you're getting with a backup quarterback in Joe Milton is I'm skipping over the draft pool of this year's quarterback draft class, and I am investing in somebody who I've seen play an NFL game and show potentials of a very, very high ceiling and has one of the strongest arms in NFL, as I've covered before. Kind of the same consensus with George Pickens. Rather than take a chance on Tet McMillan, who there was controversy on, what kind of receiver he's going to be. Well, he actually went higher than what he was projected. I think he went 8th overall, which kind of was unexpected. Then you move on over to like Matthew Golden. He was probably the receiver I wanted most. I had discussions off the record with some of my buddies that Matthew Golden was top tier, number one, like receiver on my draft board, if you will. But he went to Green Bay, Wisconsin. If you haven't seen that walkout, if you don't know, the draft this year was held in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So they hadn't drafted a first-round wide receiver since 2002, and the walkout for Matthew Golden is pretty insane. I mean, it was pretty iconic and legendary, and the perfect moment to do that. So maybe that's what they were waiting for in Green Bay, but I think that was a great pick and maybe that's a sign that they don't really trust Jordan Love as much as they did before. There's some turnover issues there to look at. So back to the Cowboys. you are trading this 3rd round pick and you're finally addressing the elephant in the room. Who else is going to be on offense with CeeDee Lamb to increase this production, to propel this offense forward, to get Dak Prescott back to that comfortability to make, those tight window passes that he is actually pretty damn good at, and maybe get him back to showing that MVP caliber, whether it be regular season. I get it, the playoff choking, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, that dude is a beast when he gets 2 receivers and a tight end that can play. I mean, he's putting up, I had a discussion with Burrow and things like that. I mean, he puts up Burrow numbers when he gets what he needs. And I mean, Dak Prescott by any means is not a bad quarterback. And when you get him the guys that he needs, he will produce, and he probably will win a division. Now, the playoffs is a completely different atmosphere. I 100% get that. But I mean, you cannot deny that if you give him what he needs, whether it be a great defense or offensive weaponry, he's probably going to be in the 11-plus win category in the regular season, which is what you're asking for a franchise quarterback. All those other tangibles that GMs and fans and haters and truthers love to talk about, that's for another time. That's a different story. So here's kind of where I'm at with this, kind of leading into more in the article, is I kind of titled it a necessary move for sure, but at what cost? So like on paper, the acquisition of George Pickens makes a lot of sense for a Cowboys team, desperate to get a wide receiver too. And they haven't really made a move like that was notable and that worked out the way that they had planned with since trading for Amari Cooper in 2022, which was nonetheless unexpected. But when Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup were teamed up on one team together, you saw the best versions of Dak Prescott, even though Dak had snapped his ankle in 2020. Trading Cooper away in 2022, my mistake. So we obtained him in 2018, excuse me. And at that time, I think we were like 3-5. And then when we traded him, we finished like 10-6. So it worked. And so the 2025 draft, we didn't address it at all. We signed some undrafted free agents and one guy from Texas Tech, but it was staring us directly in the face for multiple rounds saying, we need a receiver. When are they going to address the receiver spot? When are they going to address the receiver spot? Oh, by the way, I know we signed these 2 running backs in the offseason, Javonte Williams, kind of a, injury prone, not as much as you would want in terms of production type running back, as well as Miles Sanders, who kind of just fell off the map completely. And I understand being buried on a team as porosome as the Carolina Panthers. But are those 2 running backs going to be who you're going to be going into the 2025 season with? And I've said countless times that no, that is not one of these guys. These guys are mainly for camp. They're going to battle it out. This offseason training, we need some bodies. And if you guys remember, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan and have been keeping track of this, Ronald Jones was signed, I believe, in like 2023 or something. And everyone was like, well, this isn't going to help with Ronald Jones. And maybe, I don't know. And you're like, no, it's a camp body. I mean, he's going to be in there for a little bit, give the scout team something. I mean, he's going to try and earn his stripes, obviously, and quote unquote, earn the star, but he's probably not going to make the roster. They've got other plans in mind. So I think one of the 2 between Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams most likely will be cut, will be released. And if I had to guess, Javonte Williams is the one that will win the spot because of who Dallas drafted in hopes of a committee backfield with Jaden Blue coming out of the University of Texas. So Jaden Blue, if you look at his tape from the University of Texas, I mean, one, he's a pretty damn good back. I mean, he produced very well for Texas. He's a very fast running back. He can make kind of a one cut and just hit up the seam. And if you look at the film, he kind of reminds you of a Tony Pollard comp. So when you get and he was also drafted in the 4th round, same as Tony Pollard. So if anything, it'd be an upgrade because Tony Pollard came out of Memphis and Jaden Blue came out of Texas and played against the best talent and produced in the way that he was producing. So very high hopes for Jaden Blue coming into this offense. I think in a committee backfield, my prediction is Jaden Blue, Javonte Williams, Deuce Vaughn is a scat back every now and then, just get blown up by a linebacker and say, what the hell are we doing? And then go back to what we are being successful at, excuse me. And then Hunter Lepke, that's how a white man runs a football. Literal representation will be on some power packages and maybe some goal line settings. So I think that's a recipe for a good amount of success in the running game, and especially around this new revamped offensive line, I can see some good production in the run game. To pair with that, I've already covered, Brian Schottenheimer's offensive scheme. A lot of run heavy scheme. We want to get the ground game in good production to set up the pass. We want to establish the run. We want to control the clock, control the game, be a game management type offense to give the defense the rest that they need, so that we're not having to just light up the scoreboard every week. We're actually in control. We don't really freak out when we're down by 7. And by the fourth quarter, you can't stop the run and you can't stop the pass, because when you commit to the run, we'll just throw it over your heads with George Pickens now and CeeDee Lamb. And I think a lot of people, I've been saying this for a little bit, are also sleeping on Jake Ferguson. Now, Jake Ferguson, everyone's been telling me, oh, he had a really off year, injury battled, all this different stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you have an injury. You have an off year. Not to mention that Dak Prescott only played like 4 or 5 different football games until Cooper Rush came into the fold. Then Ferguson gets hurt, and now it's Schoonmaker and a random third-string tight end. But when Jake Ferguson is in, I think he had 77 catches in 2023 with Dak Prescott. So I think that's being extremely slept on. Jake Ferguson produced phenomenally with Dak Prescott, and I think he'll continue to do that in a healthy 2025 season. So that's something to watch out for in the middle of the field. We watch his athleticism. I know people are like, oh, you guys will only go after one play, and it's the Thanksgiving hurdle that Jake Ferguson had against the Giants. It's like, well, yes, because what other tight ends do you see doing that sort of stuff? There's not many. And the threat of him being in the middle of the field, the Seahawks game where, he's getting up in people's grill. That's what we like. That's the attitude that you want at tight end. He has this swagger about him that I think is going to propel this offense forward in the direction it needs to go. So don't sleep on Jake Ferguson and keep an eye on him, because when those two weapons on the outside are being taken care of, Ferguson's going to be open in the middle. And if there's anything Dak Prescott is excellent at, it's making tight ends money. You can think Blake Jarwin, one of my, if you want to take pull a name out the bag, that's a name right there. Blake Jarwin got a 4-year, $24 million contract extension, and then just went down the chute with injuries. Dalton Schultz was set to be paid pretty damn, I think $12 million a year once he left the Dallas Cowboys and took his chances and got a 1-year deal with the Houston Texans, and basically got a revamped younger Prescott with CJ Stroud over there. So Dak Prescott makes tight ends money. He is very effective hitting the middle of the field. This is one of the things I love to evaluate when I'm talking about quarterbacks is, can he hit the middle of the field? Can he make those tight window accuracy passes? And which is why I truthed so hard for him when he threw those 15 interceptions in 2022, because half of them were dropped by the offense or tipped. So, yeah, the cost of acquiring Pickens, a 2026 third-round pick, and late-round pick swaps may seem modest at first glance. After all, the Cowboys have made similar moves recently, such as trading for quarterback Joe Milton, as I mentioned, a decision that I supported. Sacrificing draft capital for a player who may be a 1-year rental could prove to be a significant gamble. Pickens, currently in the final year of his 4-year, $6.75 million contract with the Steelers, is set to earn a base salary of $3.66 million in 2025. So come 2026, he'll be due for an extension. So here's kind of where I'm leading in with this. And I'll give credit to the analyst who made this comment and kind of brought it to my attention, is it most likely is a 1-year rental. And when Jerry Jones says, we're kind of basically said, calm down, trust me, we're going to build for now and not build for the future. We're not in a rebuild. Sorry, I'm like preventing a sneeze. Excuse me. Jeez. We're not in a rebuild. We're trying to build for now and win now mode. That kind of represents the trade with Pickens and the trade with Joe Milton actually suggests that we have a plan moving forward. We're going to develop this guy under Prescott. But in 2026, knowing that we've already paid all these players, obviously you got Dak Prescott is still the highest paid quarterback, I believe, at $60 million per year. You paid CeeDee Lamb a big time contract. I know you did I think the 5th year option with Micah Parsons or a franchise tag, one of the two. But in 2026, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, and maybe some others are going to be due for a contract extension. Now, those are big names. I mean, you're talking about Deron Bland, who set the pick 6 NFL record. You've got Trayvon Diggs on your roster, which, who knows? I still think he has the kiss of death with his knee injury, per our medical guy that covered that back during the season. So that's a concern to watch for at corner and potentially dead cap space. Excuse me. So that's something. I mean, obviously, Micah Parsons, I mean, he might be getting paid $40 million a year, especially in a quote unquote contract year in 2025. He might go absolutely ballistic to where he might come in north of $40 million, and especially more than what Myles Garrett received with the Cleveland Browns. So take that into an account. Then you take into account that Deron Bland, who set the pick 6 record, like I just mentioned, and might have a kind of a comeback year. He was hurt most of the year last year, I think for precautionary reasons, as in well, we've got Cooper Rush. I don't think we're going to go anywhere special with this. So we might as well rest, his foot injury. But coming into 2025, he could have a kind of a comeback year and reestablish himself as a premier corner in the NFL, thus getting maybe a $25+ million contract or a $20 million+ contract. So you're talking another 60-70 million in eliminated cap space between those two players alone, and the cap space that you're already sacrificing with these restructured contracts and these contract extensions that happen over the past 2 seasons. Now add Pickens into that mix. Now, here's my prediction is I don't think the Cowboys are going to be extending George Pickens only because they have bigger priorities at hand and they're in win now mode. Not to mention that the way that Pickens has been in the NFL so far is it's kind of portrayed as a diva, kind of a someone that likes to attract attention to himself. A lot of, as we've seen, no disrespect to the guy, but attitude issues. I mean, we saw him yank Jordan Lewis's helmet after the game, after the Dallas Cowboys won last second in Pittsburgh. So thank God Jordan Lewis went to Jacksonville, which I thought was funny that he tweeted, God wanted me in Jacksonville. I was like, yeah, I mean, you guys would have shot each other if you guys were both in Dallas playing on the same team. Not only that, I mean, the kind of the on-field issues during the play, like fighting other DBs and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I like the attitude of the physicality. I mean, it's similar to Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant used to get in skirmishes all the time with other cornerbacks, but that was his game, and he would back it up with his play. So perhaps with a good quarterback like Dak Prescott, who can actually get wide receivers the football, unlike, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields or Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph. I mean, the comparison between those 4 quarterbacks and Dak now in today's age, and I say now because Russell Wilson used to be pretty elite. The sky is the limit, right? And if he produces good numbers, which I'm sure he's going to be wanting to entering, in a contract extension year next year, he might go. George Pickens might be a 1,200-yard receiver with 10+ touchdowns. You never know. So, and if anything, even if the Dallas Cowboys decided not to extend George Pickens, you're also going to be exploiting his market value. And I think his market value is, for someone like him, I mean, he's going to be a Robin to CeeDee Lamb's Batman, I would assume, in this role. So probably 25, 30-ish million in extension money over 4 or 5 years for George Pickens is what I would expect. And maybe for him, he'd be a lot like Brandon Ayuk, saying, I want this amount of money instead, and go higher and higher and higher, and probably demand north of 30 million. So 30 million, 40+ million for Parsons, and 20 to 25-ish million for DaRon Bland. That's a lot of freaking money. So I do think this is a one-year rental if you're looking at it in terms of a business. Now, if the Cowboys found a way to extend George Pickens and it was like, man, this really worked out, Pickens fits well in the Dallas Cowboys offense, then all power to you. I'm all for paying all the best talent in the world and keeping them on hand for as long as possible, especially if it's working. The Eagles are doing it. They're winning Super Bowls. The Cowboys are not doing it, and they're not getting it past the divisional round. So I'm all for it, especially on the last leg of Dak Prescott's career, him being 33 years old now, I believe, entering his 11th year. So, yeah, man. And I mentioned this before with a deep threat outside of the numbers like George Pickens. I mean, it's a lot like an elevated Michael Gallup. And with Michael Gallup, I think he had a couple seasons with 60-plus receptions, over 1,000 yards, a lot of touchdowns, and he have these like explosion games where there was just this burst of athleticism and would complete game-changing ability just 3 or 4 times a year. You're like, oh my God, Michael Gallup might have number one potential and make these crazy acrobatic catches. And obviously the way that Michael Gallup, not obviously, but the way that Michael Gallup caught these acrobatic down the field catches was kind of interesting because it looked like he would catch it awkwardly. But with George Pickens, it's the complete opposite. It's one of the best hands the NFL has seen with the deep ball. I mean, we've seen his acrobatic one-handed catches, but I mean, he catches it in a clean as clean as you can probably catch a football. So I'm excited for that with Dak Prescott and George Pickens' chemistry, not to mention that you're getting him before the offseason is truly beginning. So there's going to be a lot of time for him to understand this playbook and get along with Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and start the chemistry. And, Jalen Tolbert in a number 3 role is so much better sounding than Jalen Tolbert in a number 2 role. I think Jalen Tolbert is a very quiet receiver, but, I mean, we've seen some sparks of energy from him. And then, of course, you get, fast weapons like Kevontae Turpin. You get him out in space. That could be costly effective in the Cowboys' kind of short-term passing or short yardage passing game. And then we don't know what the hell Jonathan Mingo is. It's another classic example of this big, broad, 6'5", like metrics are out of the window. Like this dude, how is he not good when he's been playing with really bad, poor quarterback play over there in Carolina? And you bring him over to, like I say again, a much better quarterback room and offensive scheme and I guess quote unquote prestigious roster. We don't know what we're going to get from Jonathan Mingo, but if we got some good volume out of this guy and he seems to get some snaps in there and make him count a lot like we talked about with Jalen Tolbert, those two guys are going to be fighting for that number 3 role. And if somebody goes down with an injury, they're going to need to step up and be that number 2 or 3. And if I had to make a guess, I just don't see a world where Jonathan Mingo just all of a sudden just goes ballistic and you're like, where did he come from? I think Jalen Tolbert's going to be your 3. I think clear as day, it's going to be that. I don't think Mingo is going to really amount to much. And I hope I'm dead wrong on that. But just the way, if you're looking at it in terms of, we've only seen him with Panthers quarterbacks and the 4th, 5th string wide receiver with Cooper Rush. So a lot to uncover and unveil there. So now, if you're a typical Cowboys fan, unlike me, you might have seen this trade happen and go, okay, now we're back to being Super Bowl contenders. Now this is where it starts. And I look at the defense and I see we got some different pieces at the linebacker spot in the offseason with Kenneth Murray Jr. and Sanborn, I believe is his name, out of Chicago, who's a pretty decent linebacker. You got the young guns in there. The Samoan from Notre Dame showed some really good sparks as a young cat. Of course, you got Overshown, Agent Zero, which coming off not only one ACL injury but a second ACL injury. It's the bad news bears for what could be the end for Overshown. I mean, if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, I'm very concerned with Overshown's production going into this 2025 season because, as we're seeing with Jonathan Brooks and the Panthers, back-to-back ACL tears, he's already on the PUP list for the 2025 season. So they're going to be dealing without him the whole year. And I just have concerns with that because I just get war flashbacks with Jalen Smith because it's like Jalen Smith was absolutely incredible for a year, and then all of a sudden, all his speed, all his athleticism, all his changes in direction just went out the window due to one injury. So I have concerns with Overshown, and I have concerns with Trayvon Diggs. Now, there are people to kind of disguise that and hide that we picked up in the draft. And, of course, with Parsons out there, Sam Williams will be returning. We still don't know what the hell he is, rather than an undisciplined special teams player. The edge rusher we got in the second round, I'm just going to say his first name, Donovan. Apparently, he was a pretty damn good pick in the draft, and I liked what I saw on film. So I'm excited for what they can do in the pass rushing scheme. And not to mention the East Carolina cornerback that we got in the third round that somehow slipped to us. I think that kid is going to be a stud. I don't think he'll really make his presence until the middle of the season, but Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs, and I think his name's Ely. I'm blanking on his name, but the East Carolina cornerback from the third round, those three people meshed together, I think could be something special. So a pass rush, coverage ability. We did lose our best nickel cornerback and probably one of the better ones in the league with Jordan Lewis. Shout out to your service, brother. I mean, it was like 10 years or so, 7 or 8 years of just pretty consistent play from Jordan Lewis. The safety room is a big concern. The safety room, I mean, like Donovan Wilson and others, I mean, that's going to be a concern for me. But I think with Eberflus taking over as defensive coordinator in this linebacker room, the way that it has been set up for this season, I think all those numbers that you used to see that you criticized from those linebackers, especially the ones from the offseason that we signed, I think those are going to be elevated numbers this upcoming year because Eberflus was the linebackers coach in Dallas when they had tremendous success at linebacker. So kind of a return to the fold there for Eberflus, and I'm excited to see what he can do in that linebacker room. Now, what does this good defense do for the offense? Well, obviously it gives them more opportunities to score, more opportunities to control the clock with Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa, Deuce Vaughn, and whoever the hell else, Hunter Lepke, is going to be combating the running back room. And so if I had to format our offensive line in a way that it's the most effective, you don't want to take, I've heard Tyler Smith should move to tackle. You don't want to take somebody that got all pro at left guard and move him outside of his comfort zone. That's going to be a spot. Now, can he play based on an injury to a tackle? Yes. So keep that in your back pocket, obviously. But at left tackle, I'm still going to keep Tyler Guyton there. I think he got a bad rap. I think with how pass heavy and how in a hurry we were with Cooper Rush in the 2024 season, really, I mean, if anything, it got Tyler Guyton a shit ton of reps, which is what you need from a rookie tackle. And so I think going into year 2, we might see a much better Tyler Guyton, but I wouldn't lose faith in him quite yet. I don't know if it's a miss. I still have my concerns. Excuse me. But at left tackle, I would start with Tyler Guyton. At left guard, I would go with Tyler Smith. Center, definitely Connor Beebe. Right guard, Tyler Booker. And right tackle, I would consider, depending on how good the Oregon tackle is that we drafted in the latter half of the draft, switching out him for Terrence Steele. And Terrence Steele has been needing to go for quite some time, and we'll just see how that one shakes. That's the big question mark, obviously, is the tackles, which is the most important piece of the puzzle. But Brock Hoffman is going to be a very good utility, play left guard, play right guard, fill-in kind of guy if somebody goes down. I love his attitude. I think he's going to be putting up some really good numbers for the Dallas Cowboys at guard when he has to step in. So this offensive line has the makings to be, I would say, B+. to close to an A, which is instrumental for the run game, which is instrumental for Dak Prescott, and instrumental for time management and game management. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, those are positive signs. And we're seeing positive signs mostly everywhere throughout the Dallas Cowboys roster. The biggest question mark is the head coach. We've never seen Brian Schottenheimer in a head coaching role. He's been trying for like 20 years to be a head coach, was never rewarded. He's always been this kind of laid back offensive coordinator that doesn't really show a lot of signs of aggressiveness. So I think that's going to be a concern. I think we're going to be watching these games and going, why aren't we attacking? Why aren't we doing X, Y, and Z? Why are we kicking a field goal here? We should go for it. We have the momentum. I think that aggressiveness is going to turn into, well, we got points. We got 3 points, but if we failed the fourth down, we would not have gotten 3 points kind of thing, where it's like, well, yeah, we could have. What if we did this? And there's going to be a couple games during the season where you're like, well, if we went for it, we probably would have scored on that drive and we would have won by 4 rather than lose by 1 because we opted for a field goal. So keep in mind, there's going to be some struggles there throughout the season where you're going to have these close games where those tight game management decisions go back on Brian Schottenheimer. And then Cowboys Twitter is going to go, completely berserk saying that, well, we should have never hired Brian Schottenheimer and blah, blah, blah. And right now they're praising him. Just keep that in mind. Right now, they're praising everything about, I told you guys that they had a plan. I told you guys that Brian Schottenheimer had a plan and blah, blah, blah. And then in 2 months from now, or 4 months from now, when September hits and whatever month I just calculated in my head off the dome, and they're 0-2 or they're 1-1 and things don't look the way they're supposed to be because it's a new coach, they're going to go, this hire was terrible. Jerry doesn't know what he's doing. And then it's going to get some clicks and you guys don't know what you're talking about. You can't hold an opinion for a long time. And by God, your switch ups are insane. Trust me. I have a hard time even looking at your guys' Twitter because I'm just sitting there going, you guys change your mind every single day and just post something for clicks. And you're like, I've been telling y'all for weeks. It's like, no, you haven't. You've told us everything for weeks. So yeah, of course you said it. That's all you do is just sit there and type. So I've always had a problem with Cowboys Twitter because I don't think they're honest. I don't think they have opinions of their own. I think they have opinions for clicks. I wonder if this would work. So a little off tangent, but how does this offense look now with a George Pickens, right, and a CeeDee Lamb? Well, you're looking at a CeeDee Lamb that has 100 plus receptions. Being all by himself, you would think that his production would go way down when by some godforsaken miracle, he has not. He's only been shown that, hey, by the way, if I'm the only receiver on the field, I still produce and I still get it done. And I still look like one of the top 4 wide receivers in the NFL. And you can put me in any position. I'm very interchangeable as a wide receiver. And then now you get that, take the top off the defense, deep threat, middle of the field, crossers type player in George Pickens, who's also incredible after the catch, which CeeDee Lamb also has that capability. So you're getting these 2 wide receivers that are ridiculous after the catch. They have phenomenal hands. They've actually made some pretty similar acrobatic catches. And I would think the only concern I would have going into this season with the locker room on offense that we have is the attitude, the culture. Is when things get hot, are we going to shut down or are we going to actually put our pedals to the metal and get after it? And, of course, we saw in that Green Bay game that we all just fear and cower from that we saw CeeDee Lamb shut down. We saw Dak Prescott not really producing very well. I've heard the term performance anxiety. Now you get a George Pickens when things aren't going well. Will he shut down? And will both receivers shut down? So if I'm Schottenheimer and if I'm the front office and those offensive coordinators and whatnot, those are going to be top priority for me. And I know I'm not a head coach or whatnot, but if it were me, knowing the roster we have, I would make sure that culture is sound. Make sure that, a player's coach might be what this offense needs at this time with Schottenheimer. That's kind of what he's been described as. And really, if you want a comparison to what Schottenheimer truly is, it's basically a revamped Jason Garrett. So, and if Jason Garrett had any positive signs back in the day, it was doing his damn best to keep Dez Bryant, on the reins. And So, I mean, we got damn close with Jason Garrett. By no means did I think he was a good coach, but there was a time where, I mean, he won Coach of the Year. So I don't know. We might see something that we did not expect from Schottenheimer. But don't be surprised if there's a switch up. But with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, if I had to make a prediction on how this Cowboys team, I mean, overall, with everything considered, and the schedule that we have going into in the 2025 season, just kind of what I remember from looking at the schedule. I remember it was pretty damn difficult. I mean, I would say expect at lowest 10-7. That's if the roster's healthy. That's if Dak Prescott stays healthy. I think 10-7. Now, the Giants are getting better. The Commanders are clearly better, and the Eagles are going to be great. So this division is going to be the NFC beast again. You're probably going to see the Giants getting 6 or 7 wins. You're going to see the Commanders and Cowboys probably battling for 9, 10, 11 wins, maybe 12 between the two. And you're probably going to see the Philadelphia Eagles get off to a red-hot start and maybe peter off towards the end like they typically do. So if I had to guess in terms of division, the way it looks right now, a way too early prediction, I would say the Eagles most likely win the division. I would say the Commanders come in a very close second place. And I would say the Cowboys tie with the Commanders in terms of wins, but are just listed as number 3rd. And I have the Giants going 4th. But I don't think that's bad for the Cowboys because I think this division's just damn good. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty similar to, I mean, the NFC North and the NFC East, I think, are two teams that are going to be taking over the playoff atmosphere in the NFC in 2025. And that's just my early prediction. Of course, a lot is still on the table for the offseason, for the preseason, and for the first half of the season. So I think the Cowboys have a good chance to go 11-6. I think the Commanders could easily go 11-6 as well. And I think the Eagles would probably go somewhere around 12-5. And that's fine. I mean, you're one win off. So, and in a tough schedule, I think Dallas will be pretty damn battle-hardened. But, I mean, all signs point to this could be a fun year for the Dallas Cowboys. I think this roster has definitely the potential to make the playoffs. And that'll be engaging. That'll be good for the fans. That'll be good for football. Obviously, when the Cowboys are good, things are spicy in the NFL. So, and in terms of draft, I guess to kind of shift our focus a little bit, because I think I've covered all I need to cover with the George Pickens trade. I mean, this is pretty much the entire article. But with the draft itself, I mean, I talked a little bit, I already talked about taking a guard at 12th overall. I would have preferred them to trade back just a little bit in the first round because it didn't seem like any of those first couple of picks would be going Tyler Booker. But, you know, somewhere in the high teens, I would have been like, oh, yeah, that's fine. I think that's smart. But at 12th overall, I was thinking best available. And if we're going to get a guard, maybe get it in the second or late in the first. But they opted to go to Tyler Booker. Now, I still think Tyler Booker is going to be a freaking stud. So that's that. In the second round, you know, you go with Donovan Izwezu, is what I'm going to call him. On film, I think that's a great pick. I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be what Sam Williams should have been. And what Dallas seems to do a lot in the second round is take risks. They take uncalculated, we're going to stretch for this guy where we can get him in the third, but we're going to stretch for him in the second. And it usually doesn't pander out. I mean, they've done it with a tight end. They've done it with Sam Williams, which was Dan Quinn's guy. I actually made a prediction that Sam Williams from Ole Miss was going to be traded to the Commanders during the draft, maybe for a 4th or a 5th rounder. Maybe that's still in play in the offseason or leading up to the regular season. I think Sam Williams will always have the potential to go over to the Commanders, depending on what he is. So I think you got Marcus Nealon, you got Donovan, and you got Sam Williams, basically as the 3 edge rushers that are going to be, and Dante Fowler, they're going to be paired up with Micah Parsons. And a lot of it's unknown over there. Besides Dante Fowler, you kind of know what you're getting from him. And I would say he's kind of a C+, B- type edge rusher that can get to the quarterback when you least expect it. So he's not going to be bad in production. Of course, Parsons is probably going to do his typical 15 sacks, running all over the place, doing his thing. So going into the third round, I think we got an absolute steal at cornerback. I mean, I really liked this pick when it happened. It was quite unexpected, but I thought, hey, going into the season with Trayvon Diggs with his knee injury, we got to look at the cornerback position. We got to address it, whether it be a trade for a cornerback, not Elam from the Buffalo Bills, which we traded for a 6th or 7th rounder. I mean, he's kind of a filler guy. But I don't know. What we saw in film, I mean, Nick Saban said nothing but good words about this kid, and that makes me excited because he had the potential to take more NIL money and go to a bigger school, and he opted just to stay at Eastern Carolina the whole time. So that definitely prescribes loyalty. It prescribes heart. All those different things. So those are the tangibles you want for a corner. So I'm excited to see what he can do, especially being, Kalen Carson in year 2. I mean, he showed some hot spots in the first part of the year in 2024. You're getting those 4 or 5 guys in the cornerback room. So that's strengthened. And don't rule out a trade for possibly Jair Alexander from Green Bay. We've heard some rumors from Jerry Jones that they were working on multiple trades either during or after the draft that could potentially boost their roster. So Green Bay's been wanting to dish off Jair Alexander the entire offseason. So keep in mind there might be a trade in play there as well. Another name to mention would be Breece Hall. We've seen that the Jets are trying to trade Breece Hall as well. And for that, I would say he's probably a 2nd or 3rd, but we just put a 3rd out for George Pickens next year. So I don't feel comfortable, trading a 2nd and a 3rd for next year's draft. So that'll be interesting. I don't know. I think I would much rather go for Jair Alexander and a 4th or something. I don't know. So we'll all see what the Cowboys do. I think they'll probably target somebody that you can get a 5th or a 6th round guy if they're willing to trade again. But that would absolutely bolster the cornerback room in terms of talent. So, and I believe there's a safety still on the market. I'm blanking on his name. Is it Justin Sims? I think that's his name. He's pretty good. And if he's still a free agent, I would definitely consider signing if I were Dallas. Now, the 4th round with Jaden Blue, and then the other running back that we drafted in the 6th or the 7th, Phil Maffa out of Clemson. If you're a college football guy, if you watch Phil Maffa, he's a pretty physical runner. I thought he performed extremely well throughout his career at Clemson, or at least in the 2024 season. So kind of a downhill back. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll be Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa, depending on how good he's going to do in the preseason and the offseason training camp. So keep in mind, with those 2 picks, you never know, who's going to be a running back is a running back in the NFL. Addressing it twice in a draft could mean that, and especially in a good running back draft, could mean very positive things for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of run game and fresh legs. I mean, obviously Rico Dowdle went off somewhere else. We didn't want to re-sign him. I guess that makes sense. But Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa, and Javonte Williams doesn't sound too terrible to me, especially if Phil Maffa works out. And, of course, if Jaden Blue works out. And then we got this tackle out of Oregon. And I think, based on the reports that I saw, I like the pick. I mean, any tackle's a fun pick, especially later in the draft, because you never know what they can amount to. And I guess that's the point of the draft itself. But I think this guy from Oregon could be a potential replacement for Terrence Steele. And if so, then the Cowboys had a A+ draft, if that's the case. And especially kind of boosting the morale around the locker room, getting George Pickens, that's another, big time roster propellant and accelerant. So some exciting stuff there. And I think I've addressed I think I've addressed both the negatives and the positives looking into the 2025 season and what's around the corner for 2026. So when this sort of stuff starts to happen, especially as a Cowboys fan, the expectations were already low for me. Now they've just gotten a little bit higher. Like I said, a playoff team with the potential to maybe go the distance. I mean, what playoff team isn't one of those guys? But I think the Cowboys have the potential to do some damage, at least in 2025, which is positive news. I mean, came a long way from what we were looking at last year going into this year. So, offseason, I mean, I would probably grade it a C- for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't think they did a whole lot to address the needs. The draft, I thought it was if it pans out, definitely, in the A category. But from what I see, I'd probably give it like a B+. If I had to grade it a number, probably like an 86 something. And then in terms of offseason trading, off to a good start with George Pickens. So a lot of fun stuff in the books for the Cowboys if you're looking in terms of optimism, and a lot of things to continue to think about and continue to discuss as the offseason progresses on. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's everything, to be honest with you. I think that's everything. But, hey, if you haven't got a chance to check out the guest interview with Turner and Chad AUNE, please go do so. I apologize. There's a disclaimer with the audio, but the quality of the conversation is a lot of fun, a lot of good laughs, a lot of good topics. Talked about Shadur, talked about college football structure, the Texas versus Texas A&M rivalry, and what's to expect moving forward with Arch Manning and Marcel Reed going after one another in Austin at the end of the college football season in November. We talked about some fun topics, just kind of general stuff at the beginning to kind of get the ball rolling and some icebreakers and whatnot. So if you haven't seen it, it's about 90 minutes. Please go check it out. It's a lot of fun. The next guest interview, obviously the mics and stuff, that'll be under control. But yeah, also our website, www.shatterthescript.com. You can find all of our episodes. You can find our platforms. You can find my articles there. And if you want to find articles to stay up to date on what's happening in the real world, you can follow my Twitter account at STS_pod. That pod, the O is actually a 0. So STS_pod, or search Shadow the Script for my X account. Pretty damn active on that one. TikTok, obviously, video content from these episodes will be released periodically whenever I release an episode. You can find me at Shatter the Script on there as well, and on Instagram at Shatter the Script. All right, boys. Per usual, I will see y'all when I see y'all. And the offseason is underway. Baseball season is cooking. We'll get to that in probably October. And keep a lookout for some new guest interviews coming up this summer. This summer, when I met you in the summer, when my heart beat now. All right. I will catch y'all next time. I'm trying to find this shit. There we go. All right. See you boys later.